Hello, everybody. I hope you are having a slayful day. My name is Flick, and you're listening to Hard Hats and Heels, recorded at Flexi Desks, Sunshine Coast. Hello, how is everybody today? I just wanted to jump straight into the app because I'm so excited to be talking about what I'm talking about today. But first, we're going to jump in with our Friday knockoff, which is a little bit relevant to the topic we're going to be talking about today. But I had to have a day off, a night off work this week, and it honestly made me feel terrible. It made me feel like I was letting the crew down. It made me feel like I wasn't like worthy enough to be in the industry. It just didn't make me feel good. And I was literally sick. Went home and I'd been vomiting. I had the worst cramps and I had a heat pack and I was so sick. But it made me feel like, well, if I'm still experiencing these issues, am I really deserving of being in the industry? And it's just a reminder that everybody gets their issues. Everyone has imposter syndrome from time to time. And I just wanted to let you know that, like, I literally have a podcast about women in construction, and sometimes I still question whether I deserve to be in the construction industry. And it's a feeling that I fear will never quite go away. But so this week's topic's going to be a bit of a deeper episode, stuff you wouldn't see on Instagram or stuff you wouldn't have a chat over smoko. So yeah, it's going to get quick. It's going to be personal and deep, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable to talk about, but if we're not talking about it, nothing's ever going to change. So that's why I wanted to chat about this week's episode. So my personal story in this, I remember probably one of the first times I actually remember. I'm sure there was times before this exact moment that I'm about to talk about, but I remember the first time that I felt that I didn't belong in the industry. In the early stages of my traineeship, I was in a company that had quite a lot of job sites, so we moved around quite a bit. I This was my third job site, and every job site prior to that I'd been to, I'd known someone from my first job site. So my first job site was beautiful. Everyone treated me so well. My second job site, I knew a few people from the first job site, and this is the third one I'd been to. And I was still had I was still like a little bundle of wool. I guess you could say I had rose-colored glasses on, and I thought that the construction industry was gonna be so easy, honestly. And it I didn't know anyone, and I felt so out of my depths. The first day, I felt like I was a failure. I didn't know anything. No one wanted me to be in the industry just because I was a girl. And yeah, it just didn't feel exactly the way I wanted it to feel. Like I can't exactly put my pinpoint on what the feeling was, but I know it didn't feel good. It felt like I didn't deserve to be there just because I was a woman. And it's such a hard topic to even pinpoint, but it's just that feeling of failure. It's that feeling of regret. It's that feeling of being out of your depths, which a woman or a man, I'm sure everybody has felt this at some point in their life, regardless of industry, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of anything. I can guarantee you, even the ones that are so, so, so successful, they have felt this before. So let's talk about loneliness on site. It's such a hard feeling, and this first topic is going to be really speaking to the women in construction and the women that want to get into construction. That there is a sense of loneliness being the only woman out there, or one of the only women out there. It really doesn't give you much of an area to talk about what's going on in your life and how to combat those issues. And for me this week, it has been I've it's been that time of the month, and that has led to so many other issues regarding my endometriosis and flare-ups, and I've honestly just had the worst week, and it's so hard to have the confidence to actually tell the boys that's why you're struggling. Like and I'm sure once you tell them, they'll understand. I've been through this many a times. The minute I tell them what's going on, they understand and they wanna try and help. But I know as a woman, something that really comforts me is just talking, and talking is something men don't commonly like to do. A lot of the time, women really like to talk about their feelings and what's going through and how they're dealing with things, whereas men just wanna jump in and fix it. And sorry. Whereas men just wanna jump in and fix it, and 9 times out of 10, it can't be, fixed with a quick. hammer or a nail. It's a lot of a deeper issue, especially things like periods and endometriosis and cycles. They're all such a complex thing that they don't have a quick fix. And it's really hard for men to understand that. And I've spoken about this before about it's just about communicating and opening up, but it's also so hard. And I want to acknowledge how hard it is to deal with these things while being on a job site and to deal with these things and still think you have a place in the construction industry. Because, like I said, I had a day off this week and it made me feel terrible. It made me feel like, well, if I'm still having to have days off for these things because I'm a woman, do I really have a spot here? Do I really deserve my position here? And I just wanted to let you know that that is like so, so, so not truthful. Just because you're a woman does not mean you deal with these issues does not mean you have any less of a spot here. You deserve your place just as much as the next person does. You deserve to take up room. You deserve anything and whatever you want to achieve. These are just speed bumps. Men have these speed bumps too. They're just different. They just look different. And feeling like you've got to put on a mask, I know myself that when like one of my foremans or my leading hands gets mad at me over something, as a woman, my instinct is to cry, which is so normal. And you shouldn't be bottling up those feelings. And it's so hard to feel like a failure and really, really take that to heart and really be like, well, if I'm messing up this much, I don't deserve to be here. I can guarantee you that even as a woman making those mistakes, you still deserve to be there because the men aren't perfect. Men just handle things a lot differently to us, which is, it's so hard to wrap our brains around, but there's a lot of strength in the way women handle things. Men really have this built up like ego and they're tough and they don't speak about things, which really is such a hard way to be. And in a few weeks, I have somebody come in on the podcast that's going to really shed some light into this situation. But being a woman in this industry, you've really one of the biggest strengths that I can tell anyone that they have is to actually talk about what's going on. Because there's that saying that it's not weak to speak, and let me promise you, it is not weak to speak about anything because you're opening new conversations, and any conversation is better than no conversation. I could promise you that. And the other feeling that I feel quite commonly is the feeling about of having to be a strong woman. So on my job site, across any person that you talk to, everyone I can guarantee you sees me as strong and confident and tough, and I can handle everything. And like even at times I get that I'm a little bit nasty, and it's not that I'm nasty. It's that when you're a woman in this industry, you really tend to build up your walls and not let anyone down, because if you build up your walls, you're strong and you're confident and people can't walk all on over you. But it's also really hard because the person that's inside those walls doesn't feel like they have a place to talk about the things that are going on between them. Which to me is wild to think about, because if you're this strong, built up, confident person at work, yeah, that's great. You're probably really achieving your goals. You're probably really like doing everything you want to achieve. But is that person that's inside those walls, you spend more time at work than you do anywhere. I know I spend 10 hours a day, every single day at work. That means those people that are at work know me better than my people that are at home. And it's so hard to understand that, like, as much as work is work, you've really got to have it as like a place where you have friendships and mateship and people that you can lean on when things get tough, which I feel like it's coming more into show now of mental health days and talking about things and having people to come in and talk about mental health. But it's so, yeah, surreal to think about the fact we spend more hours at work than we do at home. But work's the place we feel like we need to put up that wall around us to become these strong, independent women. And I'm not saying you aren't that strong, independent woman. I'm just saying we need to figure out how to become both. I can be a strong and independent woman, but I can still have to deal with things like endometriosis and having days where I'm more emotional than others and having days where I need my bosses to cut me a little bit of slack. And that's okay. That doesn't make me any less worthy of being in the industry. And that's just something that I wanted to touch on. And I also wanted to touch on how hard this would be for a woman coming into the industry and trying to learn this. And I can imagine that when you first start. I remember when I first started, I was like, well, is this really what I want to do? Is this really how I want to spend my days? But if this is your dream, it's gonna be hard, but it'll get easier. And something that I always, always take comfort in knowing is that the way I act, the choices I make, the ways that I follow, I am paving the way for the next generation of women in the industry. And if you're in the industry too, you are too. Your actions, your voice, everything matters because you are paving the way for women in the industry, which is so sweet to know that all of my choices, all of my actions are going to help the next generation of women. And it's so nice to think about. The next topic I wanted to chat on is the pressure to prove yourself. It's so hard because women often feel like we need to work harder, be tougher, or think differently to gain the respect of others. But it's so like different. You don't have to work harder than the boys. It's such a weird mindset that we have that we need to work harder or be tougher or hide the pain to gain respect. It's such a wild concept. Like just because it's not our industry doesn't mean we need to work harder than the boys. And it's just going off that, it's something about speaking up about things. Like, for example, a jackhammer. Take, for example, like a big jackhammer. Of course, the boys are going to be able to go on it for longer than I am. And it's so weird to think about that, I'm in an industry where there's gonna be things that I'm not gonna be as strong as the boys, but that's just how it works. So, like, it's about speaking up when you need longer breaks on a tool like the jackhammer, for example, when you need breaks more frequently than the boys to do something like that, and that's not okay. It's not a weakness, which I think is how people think about it, is that that's a weakness. And yes, it may be a weakness in that specific moment, but overall, it's not. It's meaning that you are learning to use your voice. You're paving the way for other women to come in this industry because whereas women may not be the best at jackhammering, may not be our perfect tool, we we provide so many better services in so many other areas. So, like, what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about the fact that women may not be really good on a jackhammer, but we can be really, really good on machines. Women may not be, like, super great swinging around on a shovel 24 hours a day, but we're really good at organizing people and leadership. And there's so many little parts of it, and it's not just thinking about this as a broad term of women, it's about thinking, "Are you cut out for the job?" Men I've had Benson, that was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, he said that he wouldn't be able to swing around on a hammer or a sledgy or anything like that as well as some of the boys had, but he's still in the industry. And it's just thinking about that as a broader term that, yeah, women may not be able to do some things, but men aren't able to do some things. So it's about conjoining our worlds to bring a better workplace environment. The other thing that I really want to touch on is toilets. I have been on so many job sites where there is no women's toilets and they a, don't do anything about it, or B, they just slap a poster up on the first toilet of the wall and you've got to make sure that you're not walking in on the guys going to the toilet. Like, it feels like such a freaking random concept that suddenly we're having to ask for, "Hey, can I have my own toilet, please?" Which is so wild because everywhere in the world, we have our own toilets. How is it that we suddenly get put on a job site and we feel like it is the worst thing in the world? Like we are asking for so much for a freaking toilet, which is wild to me. The job site I'm on now, even like they're so great about it, and I never feel the need that I can't ask for those sorts of things. But we were working up where there was no toilets for the first day where we were waiting for the portaloo to arrive, and the first day I had to ask her to the toilet. I'm like, "Hey, can you take me to the toilet?" Which was 20 minutes into our nearest town. And yeah, that may have been hard, but you've just gotta learn that these things, you don't just have to suck up and take it. It's about using your voice. And that's what this whole episode is about, that speaking out is better than not speaking out at all. Using your voice, a conversation is better than not having any conversation at all, regardless of how it turns out, is really the big thing that I'm trying to push across to you in this week's episode. And then that feeling like you can't mess up. For me, I get this feeling all the time that like I can't mess up as a woman on a job site. I can't deal with the things. I can't like speak up about how the things as being a woman on a job site affects me because someone will just say, well, then just go do a job that's made for women then. Which is such a frustrating feeling that if I'm not allowed as a human being, I feel like I can't make mistakes in the industry because people are gonna question whether I belong in my job or not. People are gonna question whether I belong in a job in 2025. Let that just sink in for a moment, especially the men out there. And I understand it could be frustrating that they're getting the same pay rate as you for doing less of a job or quote unquote on you. But it's not about that. It's about that these are all stepping stones where you may be in a laboring position for the rest of your life. I personally, as a woman, I'm not going to be in a laboring position for the rest of my life. So it doesn't matter that I can't spend the same amount of time as a jackhammer on you without having to take more breaks. What matters is I understand how to manage people and I understand leadership and I understand the safety side of these things because they're all going to get me towards my end goal. And you've just got to think about that before you fly off the handle with a woman. The other thing is when you're having a bad mental health day and feeling like you just need to brush over them, which is so frustrating, especially in this industry that men don't like to talk about things. So that if you're having a bad mental health day, they're just going to say, oh, she's on her period. She's just being a girl. When it's so frustrating because every single person out there has bad mental health issues. Every single person is dealing with their own battles day in and day out. And just because men are too afraid to speak up and have the conversation because they don't want to be seen as weak, they try and put us in the category as weak because we're the ones actually having these conversations, which isn't true. Having a conversation is better than having no conversation at all, and it's not weak to speak. Speaking I can promise you it's gonna save more lives than putting up that I'm too tough and I'm too manly to have these conversations, and I work in a male-dominated industry, so I can't speak about my bad mental health days, which isn't true. A conversation is better than no conversation at all. Then the effects that it takes, not on just on your mental health, your physical health. I've had so many days where I have felt so sick or so injured that I felt the need that I just had to push through it because I was in a male dominated industry. I hit my head not long ago and on the job site I had a man say to me after I came back, well, I wouldn't have even gone to the hospital. Okay. Well, I understand the fact that if I've hit my head, I can't see what's going on inside my head. I understand that actually getting my health checked out is more of a priority. I understand that I don't have to be as tough as nails to survive on a job site. I'm allowed to actually speak about when things create issues in my head. It's just such a warped imagination that people have in this industry, and it's really something that if we don't talk about it, it's never gonna change. This is something that I'm so passionate about because as a woman who takes up space in this industry, I still feel guilt about it every day, and this is not something that I should be feeling. I should not be feeling guilty because I need to take days out for my mental health. I should not be feeling guilty because I am a woman and I have a period and I deal with things like endometriosis. I should not feel guilty because I had to go and get my head checked after I had a head injury at work. I should not feel guilty because I can't be take as much time on the jackhammer as another person. These are all things I shouldn't feel guilty about. And if I don't have the conversations about them, if I'm not opening this conversation about them, they are never going to change. And just take that as a woman in the industry that if you do not speak about these things, they are not going to change. And I can promise you, I'm not going to be held responsible for the fact that the next generation of women are going to have to deal with these problems. I can promise you, I'm going to be part of the solution, which is why we're here today. This is why we're talking about these things. Self doubt, internal battles, imposter syndrome. It's something I talk about so often in so many aspects of my life. Imposter syndrome creeps in the weirdest times, and it creeps in throughout the days, it creeps in throughout the nights, it creeps in whenever I'm in a position that I don't feel like I should be in. And to me, it's just something that is going to occur so many times, but it's something I always have to remind myself that doors would not open for me unless I'm ready for them to open. I would not be in positions I am unless I'm ready to be in them. Everything happens for a reason. Timing is everything. So I can guarantee you, you are not in positions because you, you know, got just winged it. You're in these positions because you are capable. You're in these positions because you are smart. You're in these positions because you are worthy. All these little things put you into the position you're in now. And imposter syndrome that creeps in, especially in male dominated industries, it's so hard to handle, but you've just got to keep on telling yourself, I deserve this, I deserve this, I deserve this, which is what I do time and time again on the job site. And that like mindset that creeps in that maybe you don't deserve to be here because you can't lift as much as boys, not knowing less, moving slower, all these sorts of things. There's it's such a hard thing to grasp. If you are not, I can guarantee you, I'm speaking to the women in industry. They know exactly what I'm talking about. But as a man in construction, as another woman that isn't in construction, you would have such a hard time trying to understand where we are coming from and why this is such a broader topic. So, if there's one thing I can ask you to do from this episode, it's be a little bit nicer to your females that you work on a job site with. Be a little bit kinder to your female friends that you know are in construction. Be a little bit kinder to everyone because the world needs that little bit of kindness. Now, let's just speak to the reality of questioning if I'm built for this and how normal this is. I have a podcast all about women in construction and telling you that you can do it. Does that mean that I don't have doubts in myself? Not at all. I have doubts in myself every single day of my life. I have doubts in myself when there's a new piece of equipment, I don't know how to use it. I have doubts in myself where I can't get something because I'm not strong enough. I have doubts in myself when I have to ask for help because I can't lift something by myself that the boys can lift by themselves. Let me sink that in. I have a podcast about women in construction and I still have doubts. I don't think that's ever going to be a time where I don't have doubts if I deserve to be here, but it's just leaning on the fact that yes, there is going to be things that are hard. Yes, there is going to be things that I feel like I can't do, but I can promise you what would be more hard is being working in a job that you don't feel like is your calling. I know that this is passion. It's about passion. I have a passion for the job, which means I'm going to go far. I'm 20 and I've already achieved so many of my goals that people wouldn't even imagine that I can achieve at 20, being a woman in this industry, but I have. And it's about passion. It's about knowing that even though there's days that are hard, even though I can't lift as much as the boys, even though I'm not as quick as the boys, I'm going to get there one day. I'm going to be able to do these things. I'm going to be able to figure out a way where I can work smarter and not harder. I'm going to figure out a way where I can use machines to lift certain things that I can't because it's more beneficial. And it's not just about being a woman in this industry. Men have back issues, men have neck issues, men hurt themselves every day because they're eagerly lifting something and they don't want to ask for help. So I can guarantee you it's not just women out here that are struggling with this. Can tell you that that man who has a hip injury or a back injury that he's struggling with for the rest of his life, he wishes that he asked someone to help him lift that tool. He wishes that he asked someone to help him lift that box of whatever it is, pipes, concrete, bags of mortar. I can guarantee you. And I'm not sure if it's still a 20 kilo working limit now, but when I first started, it was don't lift over 20 kilos by yourself. And that wasn't for a woman, that was for everyone. But I think now it's working towards lifting what you can confidently lift because I can guarantee you there's men out there that can't lift 20 kilos by themselves. It's not just a woman thing. It's a whole people thing. And if you don't have these conversations about things, it is never going to get better. I'll say it time and time again. You're probably sick of hearing it this episode that any conversation is better than no conversation. Let's just chat about how I've coped, things that have helped. So, for me personally, going to the gym, fitness, running, Pilates, all these things help me get up the built up anger that I have towards these things. The built up anger I have towards situations and conversations and things that have happened on a job site that I know that aren't okay. These are all things that help me deal with it from a anger point of view. From a mental point of view, journaling. It's how I deal with everything. It's how I remember that I belong in this industry. It's how I remember that even though there's hard days, that hard days are gonna you can't have the rain without you can't have flowers without the rain, and that even on the cloudy days, there's always gonna be sunshine again. It's just something that you've really, really, really gotta remember. And then mentors. Finding someone within your company, within your job site, within your crew that believes in you. I'm lucky enough that I have so many men on the job site that believe in me day in and day out, believe that I'm meant to be there, and they will help me to achieve my goals as long as they can still see that I'm passionate about it, regardless on the fact that I'm a woman. And it's could be hard to find those people. Maybe they're not in your crew, maybe they're not on your job site, but maybe they're in your company. And if they're not in your company, look for people like me, for example. I'm out here every single day rooting for the fact that women belong in this industry. If you're having an issue, if you're having something that you feel like no one understands in the working in a male-dominated field industry, reach out to me. I can guarantee you that I've experienced it. I can guarantee you I know someone that's experienced it. And I might not be able to fix it, but I might be able to shed a little bit of light on the fact that you can't get the flowers without the rain. And that's just something I really want you to like sink in to your head. And this is what this podcast is all about, creating connections for women in construction, creating connections with something that is seen as taboo, creating conversation around taboo topics. And having a conversation is better than not having a conversation at all. I will die on this hill. So I just want to emphasize that it's progress over perfection. Not every day is going to be easy. Not every day is going to be great. You're going to have hard days, but I can guarantee you those hard days are shaping you into the person, the tradie, the trainee, the leader, the foreman, the leading hand, all these things that you want to do, all these bad days are shaping you because making mistakes is the best way to learn. If you're not making mistakes, you are not growing. There is no way that you can be perfect and never making mistakes. I would just love to hear some from other women in construction other women in construction, their experiences that they've had with this. I'd love, love, love to hear. I'd love to put out some testimonies on my social media just so you can see that yes, I'm starting the conversation, but it's not just me. Every other woman out there, I can guarantee you, has felt like this, and every other man, I can guarantee you, has felt like this too. I can guarantee you no man has ever felt like he is perfect for the job right off the hammer. That's why men have so many career changes. It's why women have career changes, because 9 times out of 10, if a conversation had have just been had about what was going on at hand, the problem would have been able to be solved eventually, and people wouldn't feel like they have to move jobs or move companies or move sites. They'd just feel like they can achieve their goals. And I just wanted to put out there that there's more strength in showing up for yourself than not showing up for yourself. There's more strength in showing up for yourself and opening conversations than there is in not, because it's not weak to speak and it's okay to not be okay. All these things that fly around us, we treat them as if they're not issues, and then something happens and suddenly everyone's worried about them. If we were just having the conversations day in and day out, we'd be able to understand what's going on in the world around us. So, but if you're going through it at the moment, you're feeling doubt, you're feeling like you can't achieve your goals, you're not broken, you're not alone. There's always going to be people that are going to feel like this, but the important part is that us as women in construction and the men in construction listening, that we hold room to have these conversations. But as always, don't forget to follow and leave a review on the podcast. And I love chatting to you guys this week. And I will be in you guys' ears next week. Bye.